it's not just what you eat, it's when you eat it. Hello, my dear friend. Let me ask you something personal, something that might hit closer to home than you expect. Do you ever reach for a little something before bed? A late night nibble? Maybe it's a few crackers, a piece of cheese, a glass of wine, or just a bit of something sweet to end the day. You tell yourself it's harmless. You've earned it. And maybe it even helps you fall asleep faster. But what if I told you that these quiet bedtime habits, those tiny bites and sips, could be quietly placing your heart at risk, especially after age 65? This isn't about fear. It's about awareness, about reclaiming the calm, healthy rest your body truly deserves. Because what happens in those late night hours, when the world is silent and you're fast asleep, could be the very moment your heart is under its greatest strain. Every year, thousands of older adults suffer sudden cardiac events during sleep. And most people never connect those events to something as simple as what they ate a few hours earlier. Tonight, we'll uncover 8 common foods and drinks many seniors consume before bed. Foods that may seem innocent but could be secretly working against your heart, your sleep, and your peace of mind. Some of these may surprise you. One, in particular, has been directly linked to fatal nighttime heart attacks. But the good news? With a few small, thoughtful swaps, you can turn your bedtime snack into a heart-friendly ritual that supports, not sabotages, your well-being. So grab a cup of tea, get comfortable, and let's talk. This might just be the most important conversation you have today. 1. Processed cheese and salty dairy products. It was just a snack until it wasn't. Every night, around 9:30 p.m., Henry had a little ritual. After his evening walk in the local news, he'd pour himself a glass of water, grab a few crackers, and lay out 2 slices of processed cheese, his guilty pleasure. It felt harmless, comforting, even at 76. Henry was sharp, active, and thought he had his health under control. His checkups were fine, his blood pressure was stable, and he walked every morning without fail. But what Henry didn't know was that his bedtime snack, that simple moment of comfort, was quietly placing a burden on his heart. The processed cheese was loaded with sodium and saturated fats, 2 silent saboteurs for anyone over 65. And when eaten just before sleep, they became even more dangerous. One morning, Henry's wife found him unresponsive. He had passed away during the night from a heart attack. His doctor later explained, "As we age, our bodies become less efficient at regulating blood pressure and digestion during sleep. What we eat in the hours before bed plays a bigger role than most people realize. Sodium causes fluid retention. Saturated fats inflame the arteries, and both can trigger nighttime spikes in blood pressure that the body simply can't handle during rest." Henry's story isn't rare. In fact, thousands of older adults suffer fatal cardiac events in their sleep every year, and many of those incidents are linked to seemingly innocent habits like late-night snacking. That's why it's so important to be mindful, not afraid, just aware, choosing something heart-friendly, like a handful of unsalted almonds, a slice of low-sodium mozzarella, or a bit of plain Greek yogurt, could make all the difference. Because aging shouldn't mean living in fear. It should mean living smarter. And sometimes that starts with rethinking something as small as a snack before bed. 2. High-sugar cereals and desserts. Sweet dreams? Not quite. Linda was 71, a retired librarian with a love for crossword puzzles, early evening walks, and, like many of us, a sweet tooth. Every night before bed, she'd curl up in a recliner with a bowl of honey-coated cereal or a couple of chocolate chip cookies. It was her way of winding down, a little reward at the end of the day. But something strange had been happening lately. She'd fall asleep easily, but around 3 a.m., she'd wake up suddenly, sweaty, anxious, heart-pounding. She thought it was just part of aging, maybe even anxiety. Her doctor ordered a glucose monitor just to be safe. What they discovered was shocking. Her blood sugar was spiking after the sugary bedtime snacks, then crashing hard a few hours later. That dramatic dip was what jolted her awake. And worse, it forced her heart to work overtime in the middle of the night, struggling to stabilize her system. You see, when we're over 65, our body's ability to manage blood sugar becomes less reliable. And those innocent sweets before bed, they can throw off our internal rhythm. disrupting sleep, increasing nighttime heart strain, and even setting the stage for long-term heart complications. Sugar before bed doesn't just affect your waistline. It affects your heartbeat, your rest, and your next day's energy. It's not about never enjoying treats again. It's about timing and intention. For Linda, everything changed when she swapped out her sugar-laced cereal for a small apple with almond butter, or a few slices of pear, or even a bowl of unsweetened oatmeal. She still had her evening routine, but now it was heart-smart and sleep-friendly. If your bedtime comfort comes in the form of sugar, consider this a wake-up call, literally. What you eat before you sleep doesn't just end your day. It can shape how you wake up tomorrow. 3. Processed meats, salami, sausages, bacon. A slice of salami, a silent killer. Frank was 77, a proud grandfather of 5. He had a charming smile, a quiet wit, and a nightly tradition that he rarely missed. A few slices of salami with mustard and crackers while watching the late news. It was a habit he'd picked up years ago, just something small to tide him over until morning. He didn't drink. He didn't smoke. He even kept up with his doctor visits. So when his family got the call that he had passed away suddenly in his sleep, it was devastating and utterly unexpected. The autopsy results stunned them. The cause? A severe cardiac event, with nitrate overload cited as a major contributing factor. What most people don't realize is that processed meats, like bacon, salami, and hot dogs, are loaded with sodium, nitrates, and preservatives that don't just strain the heart. They can ignite a perfect storm inside the body. These ingredients contribute to oxidative stress, inflammation, and arterial stiffness, conditions that peak at night when the body is supposed to be resting and recovering. For older adults, this becomes especially dangerous. The body's defenses slow down during deep sleep, making it even more vulnerable to the subtle damage these foods can cause. What feels like a small indulgence, something as simple as a few slices of cold cuts, can quietly push the heart beyond its limits. Frank's family has since sworn off processed meats at night, and they've been sharing his story to help others understand that heart health isn't just about what you do during the day. It's about the quiet choices you make after sunset. So what's a better move? Swap that salami for a few slices of grilled chicken breast, a hard-boiled egg, or a handful of unsalted nuts. Your heart will thank you, especially while you sleep, because sometimes the most dangerous things don't shout. They whisper softly while you rest. 4. Spicy foods. When the heat doesn't end with dinner. Marcia, a retired high school counselor at 68, loved cooking spicy food. It reminded her of her late husband and the meals they used to make together. Loaded nachos, homemade chili, a dash of hot sauce on nearly everything. Even after he passed, she kept the tradition alive. A warm bowl of chili before bed, it felt comforting, familiar, but then came the nights. It started as a burning sensation in her chest. Nothing too serious, she thought. But soon, she began waking in the early hours with tightness in her chest, shortness of breath, and pounding anxiety. She feared the worst, a heart attack. One trip to the ER confirmed it wasn't her heart. Yet, it was severe nighttime acid reflux, triggered by her spicy meals. The doctor gave her a serious warning. Repeated strain like this could eventually lead to an actual cardiac emergency. Here's the thing most people don't realize. Spicy food can cause more than just discomfort. It can mimic the symptoms of a heart attack, confuse the body, and create real pressure on the cardiovascular system, especially while sleeping. When you're young, your system bounces back. But after 65, everything changes. Digestion slows, acid lingers, and the burn could become dangerous. Marcia had no idea that something she loved could backfire so severely. But once she swapped out her spicy chili for a bowl of steamed veggies with a sprinkle of basil or oregano, the change was night and day, literally. No more gasping awake. No more midnight panic. Just peace. The lesson? Not all danger comes in dramatic forms. Sometimes it comes in the form of flavor. So, if you're reaching for that hot sauce before bed, take a pause. Ask yourself if the spice is worth the sleepless night or the risk, because your comfort food shouldn't come at the cost of your comfort or your heart. 5. Alcoholic beverages. a glass of wine and a false sense of calm. James was 73. A former jazz musician with a smooth voice and a quiet home life, he enjoyed his routines. Every evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, he'd settle into his favorite armchair by the window, put on Coltrane or Miles Davis, and pour himself a glass of red wine. Just one. It helped him relax. It helped him sleep. At least, that's what he thought. But beneath that peaceful ritual, something much more dangerous was unfolding. James had been waking up tired, not groggy, exhausted, even after a full night's sleep. His daughter noticed he'd started nodding off during conversations, missing his usual spark. When he finally agreed to a sleep study, the results were sobering. His oxygen levels were dipping dangerously low during the night. He was experiencing worsened sleep apnea, and his heart was working overtime trying to compensate. The culprit? That glass of wine. Most people don't realize that alcohol may help you fall asleep faster, but it deeply disrupts the quality of your sleep. It relaxes the airway muscles, making breathing harder. It lowers oxygen levels, and it increases the risk of strokes and heart events, especially in deep sleep, when your body is supposed to recover. For older adults, these effects can be even more pronounced. A quiet sip can quickly become a silent threat. James made a shift. He replaced his nightly wine with a glass of tart cherry juice, rich in natural melatonin, and sometimes a warm cup of chamomile tea. He still had his music, his chair, and his peaceful routine. But now, he also had restorative sleep and safer nights. So if your idea of winding down includes a drink, ask yourself, is it truly helping or is it slowly hurting? Because the heart doesn't need wine to rest. It needs oxygen, calm, and a kind of sleep that lets it heal. And believe it or not, that healing starts with the choices you make before your head hits the pillow. 6. Caffeinated foods, including chocolate. The bittersweet truth about her favorite treat. Every night after dinner, Susan would treat herself to one small square of dark chocolate. It was her moment of joy, a reward for a long day, something rich and familiar that brought her comfort. At 70, she wasn't much for desserts or caffeine during the day, but that single bite of chocolate felt harmless, almost healthy. Then came the heart palpitations. At first, it was occasional, random episodes of her heart fluttering in the early morning hours. She blamed it on dreams, maybe a little stress, but the pattern became clearer. She'd fall asleep just fine, then jolt awake at 2 or 3 a.m. with her heart racing, her mind buzzing and sleep slipping further away. Her doctor asked a simple question: "Do you eat anything with caffeine in the evening?" And that's when it clicked. Even that small piece of dark chocolate had enough caffeine and stimulants to keep her system active hours into the night. Caffeine, even in small amounts, can stay in the body for 6 to 8 hours. And for people over 65, the metabolism slows, meaning that stimulation can linger well into deep sleep cycles, elevating blood pressure, increasing heart rate, and causing fragmented, restless sleep. It wasn't just a lack of rest that alarmed Susan. It was a strain on her heart. What she thought was a tiny, harmless indulgence turned out to be a subtle but powerful trigger. Now, she's made a switch. Her new nighttime ritual includes a cup of warm herbal tea, sometimes lemon balm, sometimes chamomile, and a sliced banana, which naturally boosts melatonin. The difference? She wakes up feeling truly rested. Her heart? Steady and strong. So if you're reaching for a sweet little pick-me-up before bed, remember, your body isn't winding down if it's being revved up from inside. Caffeine hides in unexpected places, and its impact on your heart doesn't stop just because your eyes are closed. Sometimes, peace of mind starts with peace in your bloodstream. 7. Fried, high-fat foods. Crispy, golden, and deadly at midnight. Larry, a 69-year-old retired mechanic, always had a soft spot for fried food. It reminded him of simpler times. Sunday dinners with fried chicken, crispy fries during football nights, greasy takeout after a long day. He'd tell his friends, "I earned the right to eat what I want." And for years, he did. One Friday night, after catching up with old buddies, Larry brought home a large fried chicken meal. He ate around 9:30 p.m., then dozed off in front of the TV. That would be the last night he ever slept. His wife found him unresponsive the next morning. The cause of death? A sudden cardiac event, triggered in part by the heavy, high-fat meal he had just hours before. Doctors explained that fried and fatty foods are more than just bad for your waistline. They spike inflammatory markers, raise bad cholesterol, and strain the cardiovascular system, especially when eaten before bed, when the body is supposed to be repairing itself, not fighting off grease and fat. As we age, our bodies aren't as efficient at breaking down these meals. Digestion slows. Blood pressure regulation becomes more fragile. And when overloaded with saturated fats right before sleep, the heart ends up working overtime, just when it should be resting. Larry had no history of heart problems, no warnings, just one heavy, indulgent meal at the wrong time. Since his passing, his family has transformed how they eat, especially at night. They've learned that healthy doesn't have to mean bland. Now it's baked salmon, steamed vegetables, air-popped popcorn. They still share meals together, but with choices that support life, not threaten it. So the next time you're tempted to indulge in something fried and crispy close to bedtime, think of Larry. Think of the heart quietly beating inside you, asking for rest, not resistance. Because no food, no matter how golden or crunchy, is worth a night your heart may not survive. 8. Salty snacks, crackers. Crunchy cravings, midnight consequences. Every evening around 10 p.m., Eleanor would sit on her sofa, remote in one hand, a bowl of crackers in the other. At 75, she lived alone in this little moment, watching her favorite drama while enjoying her favorite salty snack. Felt like comfort, safe, familiar, but comfort could be deceiving. Over the past few months, Eleanor began feeling off in the mornings, dizzy spells, a pounding headache. Her doctor suggested checking her blood pressure overnight, so she wore a monitor to bed. What they discovered was alarming. Her blood pressure was spiking dangerously high between 2 and 4 a.m., even though it remained normal during the day. The culprit? Her nightly crackers. Salty, processed snacks, like chips, pretzels, and crackers, may seem harmless, but they're often packed with sodium and preservatives. And when consumed late in the evening, they wreak havoc while your body sleeps. Sodium causes your body to retain fluid, which increases blood volume and forces the heart to pump harder, especially dangerous in older adults whose nighttime regulation systems are already weakened. Eleanor was stunned. All that trouble, she said, from a handful of crackers? She made the switch that same week. Now her nighttime ritual includes sliced cucumbers, a few unsalted almonds, or air-popped popcorn. Still crunchy, still satisfying, but gentle on the heart. Within days, her blood pressure stabilized. The headaches vanished. And for the first time in weeks, she woke up refreshed. Here's the truth. It's not just what you eat, it's when you eat it, and your heart is paying attention, even while you sleep. So if your fingers are reaching for that salty snack as the credits roll on your favorite show, pause. Ask yourself, is it really worth the risk? Because sometimes the smallest bites come with the biggest consequences, and your heart deserves better than a battle at midnight over a bowl of pretzels. Your heart deserves rest, not resistance. Now you know, the 8 foods that seem comforting, but quietly challenge your heart while you sleep. Walter, Susan, Frank, Marcia, James, Eleanor, their stories aren't meant to scare you. They're meant to remind you that your small choices, especially at night, carry weight. You've lived long enough to know life isn't about perfection. It's about wisdom. And wisdom, especially as we age, looks like this: slowing down, paying attention, and making the kind of choices that let you wake up with strength, not regret. So tonight, when you reach for that snack, ask yourself, does this feed my comfort or my health? Because aging isn't the end of good living. It's the beginning of living smarter. And your heart, it's been with you through everything. Now it's your turn to take care of it. Sleep peacefully. You deserve that much. Thanks for watching. Please comment with the number 1 key to let us know you watched the whole video. We are very grateful for this. Subscribe to the channel, and remember to turn on the notification bell to see other useful content. See you in the next video.